$10 trillion out of nowhere. Chapter 466. Chapter 466. It's not as good as my family's villa. Chapter 466. It's not as good as my family's villa. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation. Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. 5 minutes later. Everyone got into the BMW and rushed to the Purple County Garden Villa complex. Although Sierra, Eve, and the others did not know if Connor was a real rich heir or not, because of what had happened in the private room just now, everyone was too embarrassed to approach Connor. Therefore Connor and Mina sat in one car, Eve, Dustin, and Calvin sat in another car, and Sierra, Sasha, and Mavis sat in the third car. After the car started, Connor was still a little puzzled as to why Mina didn't choose his villa. After all, Connor's villa could be said to be a priceless mansion. It was not comparable to an ordinary villa. There was no reason for Mina to choose another villa over his own. Why didn't you go to the villa I lent you? Is my villa not good enough? Connor asked Mina softly. After Mina heard Connor's words, a trace of embarrassment flashed across her eyes. She then smiled and said, "No. One just felt that the villa you lent me was too luxurious. I was worried that my friends would destroy the things in the villa, so one rented another one." Oh. Connor heard Mina's explanation and nodded lightly. He didn't say anything because he felt that Mina's words made sense. After all, his villa really was too luxurious. Any one piece of furniture in it would cost a few million. Ordinary people would definitely feel uncomfortable living in it. Mina saw that Connor didn't say anything, so she quickly looked at Connor and added, "Connor, one don't mind the villa you lent me. Don't think too much about it." "No, I wasn't," Connor said with a smile. Update on B Omicron X0VEL.C Omicron M. That's good. Mina nodded lightly and did not say anything more. She turned her head to look at the scenery outside the car. Connor saw that Mina didn't say anything, so he didn't say anything either. Instead, he closed his eyes and started to rest. However, Connor might not know that Mina had chosen another villa not because his villa was too luxurious. On the contrary, Mina did not go in to see what it looked like. That day Mina followed the address given to her by Connor, and found the residential area where the villa was located. She was shocked by the environment inside. Although she didn't know that this villa was the king of the residential area, she could feel that the price of this villa was definitely not affordable by ordinary people. The person who could live here was definitely one of the top figures in Port Hampton. However, Connor said that this villa belonged to his friend. Mina couldn't understand how an ordinary person like Connor could know such a rich man. Therefore, Mina vaguely felt that something was not right, so she did not enter the villa. Instead, she found the security guard in the community and asked about the situation of the villa. She wanted to ask who the owner of this villa was, and whether it could be Connor's friend. However, the security guard told her that the villa had been sold a long time ago, but no one knew who the owner of the villa was. No one had seen anyone living in the villa. Only some housekeeping staff or people from the showroom came to clean the house every day. After Mina heard the security guard's words, the doubt in her heart became even stronger. She felt that Connor should be working in the showroom of this villa during the summer vacation. This way, Connor would have a chance to get the key to this villa. Moreover, Connor knew that no one lived in this villa at all, and the owner would not come back. That was why Connor said that this villa belonged to his friend, and gave him the key so that he could bring his friend over. After all, only this explanation could explain why Connor had the key to the villa. If Connor really knew such a rich man, Mina would never believe it. After all, to be able to buy such a villa was not something that an ordinary rich person could do. Such a person had to be worth at least tens of billions of dollars. Mina knew that this villa didn't belong to Connor, nor did it belong to Connor's friend, so she naturally didn't dare to bring her friends here. If the owner of the villa found out, they would call the police and arrest them all. Which was why she'd rented a different villa. However, the kind-hearted Mina did not intend to tell Connor about this because she felt that since Connor had stolen the villa key for her, if she told him about this, it would definitely hurt Connor's self-esteem. Thus, Mina could only find a random excuse to temporarily fool Connor. The Purple County Garden Villa complex was not far from the hotel. About 20 minutes later, the 3 BMWs stopped in front of a neighborhood with a good environment. "We're here." Mina stretched out her hand and gently pushed Connor, who had fallen asleep in the car. Connor opened his eyes in a daze, then turned his head to look at the environment outside. He whispered to Mina, "This villa doesn't seem to be as good as the villa one lent you." "Yeah, it's definitely not as good as that one." Mina looked at Connor with a faint smile, then directly reached out to open the car door and got out. After Connor saw Mina get off the car, he didn't say anything and directly followed Mina out of the car. After he got out of the car, he realized that Eve and the others had already entered the neighborhood. The environment of this villa is quite ordinary. Eve looked around and said disdainfully. "Yeah, it looks a little shabby," Sierra quickly added. After Mina heard the conversation between the two of them, her expression seemed a little awkward. She said softly, "The villas that can be rented in Port Hampton right now are considered to be quite okay. The environments of the other villas might not be as good as this. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you wanted to rent a villa? I could have also lent you a villa. My villa is much better than this," Eve shouted loudly. After Dustin heard this, he hurriedly asked Eve with a smile, "Mr. Lin, where is your house?" "It's in the Thompson Luxury Villa Complex," Eve declared proudly. When everyone heard Eve's words, they were all stunned on the spot. Their expressions were extremely shocked. Chapter end. Report.